The desert evening bled into night as a fierce wind ripped over the empty plains, sending dust swirling around the abandoned mining camp where lantern light flickered like a dying heartbeat. There stood a lone woman, wrists bound to a cracked timber beam, her clothes torn from struggle, bruises blooming across her arms like dark warnings of what the West did to the innocent. Her breath quivered as a gang of ruthless claim jumpers circled her, their spurs clinking with every predatory step. They had ambushed her stagecoach, looting gold and leaving the other travelers scattered in fear. She was the only one who fought back. She dared to stand between them and what they wanted, refusing to surrender. And for that courage, they sought to break her. They cursed her name, called her stubborn and foolish, each man taking his turn with the whip, not to thrill, but to punish her spirit. She pleaded, voice cracking like the dry ground beneath her boots, begging them to let her live, to let her go home to her family, to let the West show mercy one last time. But mercy was never a thing men like them traded in. When she collapsed to her knees, one of the outlaws, a scarred brute with cold snake eyes, ordered the others to leave her hanging there overnight as a warning to anyone else who dared to block their schemes. They rode off just far enough to drink, laugh, and wait for her will to shatter. She fought tears. She fought fear. Even with the rope cutting into her wrists, she prayed silently, "Don't give up. Don't let them see you broken.
Breathe, just breathe.
Sunrise will come." But the stars were still hours away. Silence returned to the ghost town, except for the whistle of the wind through broken windows and the distant, echoing rattle of the gang's campfire laughter. Her pulse slowed. Blood ticked down her arm. The cold rose like a serpent climbing her spine. And then, just when she believed the world had forgotten her, she heard it. A far-off rhythm, a steady, echoing clip-clop on the lonely trail. Hooves, one rider. At first, she thought the sound was a trick of survival-starved imagination, but no, it grew louder, more certain, approaching the edge of the ruined town. She mustered the last of her voice, forcing out a desperate plea that scraped against the night. "Help! Somebody, please!" The rider paused. She heard a saddle creak. The hooves began again, this time turning toward her direction, toward the lantern glow trembling in the gusts. A tall silhouette appeared, a lone cowboy, dust-caked hat lowered against the wind, revolver holstered but ready, horse snorting as if it sensed danger. He scanned the shadows before dismounting with calm precision, his boots crunching the gravel as he approached her. "Easy, ma'am," he whispered in a low, gravel-smooth voice. "You're safe now. I'm right here." He sliced through the ropes with a single stroke of his knife, catching her before she hit the ground. She clutched his jacket, trembling from pain and cold. He held her steady, eyes burning with controlled fury as she pointed shakily toward where the gang hid. They'll come back," she gasped. The cowboy nodded once, jaw tightening. "Then they'll regret that choice." He tucked her behind the old well for cover, laying his coat over her shoulders, and turned toward the danger like a man who lived for settling scores. He stepped into the open street and unleashed a whistle sharp as lightning. The gang's laughter died. Chairs scraped. Guns clicked. One by one, the claim jumpers stumbled from their firelit camp, mocking at first, until they recognized him. Recognition turned to panic. One outlaw cursed the sky in dread. "It's him, the ghost rider of the Brazos." Rumors said he walked away from every gunfight without a scratch, leaving only justice in the dust behind him. Now he stood, hand hovering over his holster, voice echoing like thunder across the ghost town. "You boys made a mistake. You hurt someone who didn't deserve it." The scarred leader spat on the ground. "Walk away, cowboy." "She ain't worth dying for." The stranger narrowed his eyes. "Everybody's worth that much." And then silence. Not even the moon dared move. In a flash of silver and fire, the street exploded into gunshots, echoing like war drums across the empty west. The woman covered her ears as dust sprayed from each bullet impact. The cowboy moved like wind through branches, swift, impossible to hit. Every draw precise, every shot earned with experience carved from hardship. Within seconds, the outlaws fell one by one, until only the scar-faced leader remained. He reached for a fallen rifle, too slow. as the cowboy fired, sending the weapon spinning from the outlaw's grip before stepping forward and punching him to the dirt. The man screamed for mercy. The cowboy glared down at him, eyes colder than the barrel he aimed. "Pray the judge is kinder than you were." The gang leader whimpered, defeated. The cowboy tied them for the law to collect, not out of sympathy but justice. Finally, he returned to the woman, kneeling beside her. "You're safe," he promised again, voice softer now. "I'll get you home." Tears finally came, not from fear but relief. She leaned into him, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you." He tipped his hat, helping her onto his horse. The night wind still howled, the lantern still flickered, but for the first time, hope burned brighter than fear. As they rode beneath the starlit sky toward sunrise, one truth settled deep in her heart. In the Wild West, heroes were real, scarce as rain. But real. The cowboy kept his pace steady beneath the moonlight, one arm securing the weakened woman in the saddle as his horse pushed onward through the chilling wind. Every clop of hoof against the hardpan felt like a countdown. The outlaws might have allies, and he didn't plan on waiting to find out. She tried to stay awake, gripping his coat, whispering questions through chattering teeth. "Why did you help me? You don't even know my name." The cowboy didn't answer right away. He was watching the horizon, studying every rock and shadow like each one might pull a gun. Finally he spoke, voice low and carrying the weight of old regrets. "I've seen too many people hurt while others rode by, pretending not to see. Not anymore." The wind shifted, and he slowed just enough to check the rope burns around her wrists, his anger flaring again at the marks left by cruel hands. She flinched as the memory of the whip stung fresh, but he steadied her gently. "You're stronger than they'll ever be," he said, a promise more than comfort. They reached a riverbank where he dismounted and helped her down, letting his horse drink while he built a fire quick and quiet. The woman watched him, the precision, the readiness, and realized this wasn't a man running from trouble. This was a man who walked toward it. As the warmth revived her strength, she told him about her family, the stagecoach, her hopes crushed in the dust. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, tears spilled in silence, but he only placed his hat over his heart and said, "You're going to see your home again. I'll get you there." A rustling from the bushes snapped the peace. His revolver was drawn in an instant. Coyotes, just curious, but he stayed alert even after they slunk away. Dawn crept over the west, painting gold across the river. She stared at him like he was the sunrise itself, proof that goodness still existed in a land ruled by guns. He met her eyes briefly before turning back to scanning the trail. "We ain't safe yet," he warned. Men like them don't take defeat kindly. And as the first rays broke fully, dust rose on the far ridge, riders approaching. The fight wasn't over.